Hello, I'm Richard Munro, and this is Golden Hours on Angel Wings, my tribute to Scottish heritage and poetry, something I've loved all my life. You know, they say, is there love at first sight? Well, when it came to Scottish heritage and Scottish poetry, I would say it was love at first sight. As a small boy, we went to 1959. We went to see Kenneth McKellar, and he sang what I think were the first Robert Burns songs I had ever heard. And he, of course, was resplendent in his kilt, and I was quite taken by it. I became somewhat interested. And then we went to a tattoo of the Scottish regiments in Manhattan in 1960. And when the bands came in with Healin' Laddie and the Campbells Are Coming and all the great tunes of glory, ending, of course, with the Black Bear and Colonel Bogey, I was absolutely enthralled. Now, I had been to patriotic concerts before, with Robert Merrill and Bill Tabbert, who was a friend of my parents, and I enjoyed them very much. I've been to classical concerts too. I was very polite. I enjoyed them. I'd been to Broadway shows. But nothing really excited me or enthralled me or interested me or fascinated me like Scottish music and Scottish poems. There's just something magical about it, and I've always been in love with it all my entire life. I'm a teacher, and I've spent most of my life teaching Spanish and Spanish literature, and also teaching English to English learners. And although, of course, even when I studied in Spain, I made use of the influence of Ossian, Macpherson's Ossian, and Walter Scott. Lovely Scottish poetry. I've been to the grave of Mary Morrison, who was the toast of the town. She was the most beautiful and attractive girl in her Scottish town of Mochline. And poor girl, she had many virtues, but not health and strength, and so she died before she was 20, unmarried. But she is immortal in the poetry of Robert Burns, and people make pilgrimage to her gravesite. O Mary, at thy window be, it is the wish, the trysted hour, those smiles and glances let me see, that make the miser's treasures poor. How blithely would I bide their store, a weary slave, frae sun to sun, could I the rich, secure reward, the lovely Mary Morrison. Yestreen went to the trembling string, the dance gae through the lichted hall. To thee my fancy took its wing, I sat but neither heard nor saw. Though this was fair and that was braw, and yon the toast of all the town, I sighed and said amang them all, Ya not Mary Morrison. O Mary, canst thou wreck his peace, what for thy sake would gladly dee? Or canst thou break that heart of his, whose only fault is loving thee? If love for love thou will not gie, at least be pity to me shown. A thought ungentle canna be the thought of Mary Morrison. My people came from the north, and so Scottish history, its glories and tragedies, were certainly part of Scottish heritage and Scottish songs. And one of the earliest songs I'd ever heard with a Scottish historical theme was The Lovely Lass of Inverness. Now, to give you some background, the Highland clans rose in 1745 when Bonnie Prince Charlie put up his standard, and they had some initial victories, and so finally were cornered at Culloden, or we could also call it Drumossie Moor, and it was really the end of the autonomy of the Scottish clans and almost a mortal blow to Highland culture. And it led to a great period of emigration and the Highland clearances and many traumatic feelings. So it is, for Scots, Culloden is a traumatic and emotional memory. The Duke of Cumberland, who was the brother of the king, was very ruthless. And there's a new book coming out in the fall called George III, The Last King of England, by my friend Andrew Roberts. And while he was writing the book, we were discussing Culloden, and I said that one of the reasons why the Duke of Cumberland was so hated was because not only did he not take prisoners, he ordered his men to execute Jacobite prisoners. Wolfe, who was the captain at that time, refused to do so because he said these are princes of war, just like the French soldiers and others who were there. But Cumberland considered them to be pirates, I suppose, and wanted them all executed. And he gave his men free hand in the Highlands. Of course, his men were so zealous that they often burned out the homes and even killed their own allies. And this is why he was called the Butcher. And this is why he was really hated, because he was indiscriminate in the Highlanders he burned out and he killed, and it was very cruel. And this is commemorated in a poem by Burns. The lovely lass of Inverness, nae joy, nae pleasure can she see, for e'en and morn she cries alas, and aye the salt tear blinds her ee. Drumossie moor, Drumossie day, a waeful day it was to me, for there I lost my father dear, and brethren three. Their winding sheet, the bloody clay, their graves are growing green to see, and by them lies the dearest lad that ever blessed a woman's ee. Now way to thee, thou cruel lord, a bloody man I trow thou be, for mony a hurt thou hast made sair, that never did wrang to thine or thee. And my grandfather explained that we Munros were Whigs. We sympathized with the Hanoverian cause, and yet some were caught up in the retribution and suffered. I should always remember my grandfather telling me that this poem was read to him by his company commander at 2nd Eeps. They had a burn supper at 2nd Eeps, and I was very impressed by the fact that they celebrated it and they read the poems, and it was a very memorable Burns night. Of course, many of the men who participated, including his company commander, were soon killed in 2nd Eeps. So for many of them, it was sort of their farewell dinner to their friends. And always remember that, and always remember the lovely lass Inverness. When we went to Culloden in 1967, my father read it to us all. And we've heard it many, many times. And it's read to us many, many times. We remember the people we came from.